the reason that you would be having to take this probiotic every single day is that the very first time that you as a child or any child you know takes an antibiotic, the ability to produce that good bacteria naturally is halted forever. Very first time.
Wow.
So probably we all had to take an antibiotic at one point, and that was the end of the natural process.
Many times.
That's the end of that process, which is a shame. I mean, I know the first time I have watched my grandchildren have to take that, it's like, oh man. I know what that first time does. So that's why you have to take it every day, because your body would have done it on its own every day if it hadn't been for antibiotics.
And why do we have to take Vites every day?
Well, unfortunately, our food supply is not what it should be. And a lot of that has to do with hydroponic gardening, you know, making the vegetables grow faster and easier and giving them everything they need. And therefore, they don't have to do anything. They never struggle. And when a farm struggles, like from a drought or windstorm or anything, the plant produces more of the vitamins that we ingest from that plant to survive. That's when it kicks in more lycopene, more vitamin B, more C, whatever it takes to, whatever that plant thrives on. So,
but haven't there been studies that vitamin supplements are really not that helpful to your body?
I would say they're right about that, because most vitamin supplements are either synthetic or they are what they would call natural, which is a crystallized process. And a synthetic vitamin is literally out of a lab, and it is identically the same molecule underneath the microscope as a vitamin B or C, but it has no food involved in it. You know, that's the ones you get at the grocery store. And then there are vitamins that you find at Whole Foods or online, which has gone through a crystallized extraction process. And that process kills the enzymes and amino acids that would be associated with food. And I don't think that our bodies are able to recognize that as a true food. They might get some benefit from, and certain vitamins are more stable that way than others. Not all of them are affected as seriously as others, but some of the ones we need the most are very affected by that process.
And there's no life in them.
There's no life. They don't. They're not recognized as food, and so I sometimes use the term. I just loved it when I came up with this, and of course it's going to relate to a horse because everything used to relate to horses. But you could.
Yes, thank you.
You could walk by a dead horse and say, well, that's organic and natural, but you'd be shit out of luck to get that horse to go to town. It's not alive.
Yeah,
That's right.
Not alive.
yeah.
And that's exactly what we're faced with. And yeah, so I would agree. Most vitamins can be worse for you than nothing at all.
Yeah, that's what.
Talk about the landmark study.
Shackley did a study on that where they took a group of people that.
Shackley didn't do the study, Berkeley did the study.
Oh, right, Berkeley did a study, but it was on Shackley users, and they took a group of people. Actually, Elena's blood was in that study.
More than my blood. I won't describe everything.
And you had to be a Shackley user for over 20 years.
Yeah, what happened was Berkeley knocked on Shackley's door and said, we have this interest in finding out if vitamins really do make a difference in people's lives. And you're the only company that's been around long enough that has a sustained user base. Would you be willing for us to sample your people? And Shackley said, sure. And Berkeley said, well, now realize if the study goes south, it's still going to get published. And Shackley felt confident enough because we've been around a long time. So they sent out a message to all of us that had been using Shackley for 20 or more years. And at that time, I had been a 25-year user. And so I jumped at it because I thought, this is cool.
Yeah.
I want to know if this stuff is really working. I mean, I knew it was, but you want to kind of get the scientific side of it. So there was about 300 of us that volunteered to do this because it was pretty extensive, what we had to do. And they took everything, and then Berkeley compared us with brand X users, and it was a lot of different brand X, and then people who were using no vitamins at all. And what they found was that the Shackley group had the lowest incidence of negative biomarkers. So that could be like cholesterol, triglycerides, homocysteine levels, C-reactive proteins. So all the areas where we needed to have low levels, we had low levels. All the areas where the biomarkers needed to be high, we were stellar at that. We had the lowest incidence of heart disease, cancer, and diabetes in the Shackley group. It was just practically nominal. The people that were on brand X had the highest level of biomarkers in a negative way. And the people who were taking nothing at all actually were better than the people who were taking the bad vitamins. Do you know why? Because of all of the chemicals that have been added to all those things. People that were taking nothing were in better health than the people that were taking X, brand X. Now, the other thing is, Shackley folks were taking less than 0.6% of prescription drugs. The people who were taking brand X or nothing were taking a minimum of 19 prescription drugs every single year. So, it just kind of really showed the difference. And then that got published. It's in the Journal of Nutrition. So if you were interested, you could look at the whole study. But that
And they were
was done.
happier and had higher quality of life.
Yes, we had higher quality of life.
Yay!